Hello and welcome to Your Health Reclaimed with DrPND, where we help you reclaim your health with tips, tools, and resources to live your most optimal and vibrant life. Here's your host, DrPND.
Hello and welcome, everybody, to Your Health Reclaimed. This is your host, DrPND. And on today's episode, I am going to talk about a very important topic that is near and dear to me, something that I've seen and dealt for over 28 years, and something that we as people, as a nation, will have to collectively come together on to be able to once and for all address. So without further ado, today's topic is going to be the truth and issues with processed and highly refined carbohydrates, which basically talks about junk food and the chronic disease epidemic that is, driven by them. So today is going to be a good one, like I said, and I really want to, do the best I can to, explain the issues and how, this really, topic affects nearly every single person in our modern society. And how those, processed and ultra-refined carbohydrates, it really devastate the state of our health, in our country, and actually how they have really devastated the health in many other countries, like my birth country of Bulgaria. Before, the advent of processed foods and all those ingredients were available, there was no epidemic of chronic disease. There was no, type 2 diabetes and obesity and the issues that are having now. So for most people, they have heard that, carbs are bad. Okay, but that's really not the truth at all. The problem isn't carbohydrates themselves. It's what has been done to them. Ultimately, the process of ultra refinement. So modern food companies have taken basically what was once a nourishing, fiber-rich whole food and turned it into a cheap, very cheap, addictive, ultra-processed ingredients that hijack or, our metabolism and our health. So in this episode, we're going to break down what processed and ultra-processed carbohydrates really are, what they do to your body and metabolism, why food industry keeps using them, how they create addiction and chronic disease ultimately, and what you can do starting today to take control of your health again. All right. So number one, all right, let's begin the processed food problem. So let's start with the hard truth. We're at the point of over 70% of Americans are now overweight or obese, and nearly 40 of them have, prediabetes, insulin resistance. That didn't happen because we suddenly lost willpower. It happened because our food supply changed. Over the past decades, food manufacturers have filled grocery store shelves with products made from processed and refined carbohydrates, things like white bleached refined flour, corn syrup, high corn fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, dextrin, and other different modified food starches, which are, again, for example, ultra-refined processed foods. These ingredients, unfortunately, are cheap, extremely cheap, easy to produce, and are designed to last a long time on the shelf. So for, profits and gains and for, economical standpoint, these ingredients really increase drastically the shelf life of whatever, packaged food is made. And that is a big one because there's a lot of profit there. But the problem is this: they're also engineered to make you crave more. So food scientists call this bliss point. It's the exact combination of sugar, fat, and salt, all processed, that lights up your brain's pleasure centers, basically, creating that I can't stop eating feeling. That's why, you can go and get a, bag of apples. After an apple, 2, maybe 3, you'll be done. You can get a bunch of bananas, and after a couple of bananas, you'll be pretty much done eating those. Yet you can get a massive one of those economy size, bags of Oreo cookies or potato chips, and you eat, but you kind of can't stop. Even though you might be technically full physically, you still want to keep eating. You just never get the satiety. Same with, you can take a regular cheesecake and polish the whole thing off. And, even though ingested, anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5,000 calories, depends on the size, you're still hungry, or you still keep eating or want to eat. This is what this, brain's pleasure center bullseye is that they're able to hit, and you just can't stop and don't stop, even if it's, you stop intermittently for a few hours or even a day, but you go back to it every single day. And the result, well, the result is that is calorie dense and nutrient poor and addictive by design. So ultimately what you get is tremendous amount of calories, empty calories, little to no nutrition, and they also are addictive by design. So you have to continue to keep eating them. Okay, this is a big one. So number two, what are processed and refined carbohydrates? What does processed or refined really mean? Well, it means the natural food, whether that's corn, wheat, rice, potatoes, whatever, has been stripped off its fiber, protein, healthy fats, and nutrients. And what's left is mostly starch or sugar. Take wheat, for example. Aside from the herbicides, fungicides, and pesticides that it's sprayed on, aside from the genetic modification that has taken place, aside from those things, that's a whole other issue. But let's take even heritage heirloom wheat. And when you take the whole grain of wheat, okay, you look at it, it literally contains 3 parts. You have the bran, which is rich in fiber, water-soluble vitamins, and minerals. The germ, which contains healthy fats, and B vitamins, and also fat-soluble vitamins. And the endosperm, which is mostly the starch. Okay, so you have the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. When food manufacturers make white flour, like bleach flour, they remove the bran and germ and keep only the starchy center. The result is a powder that digests very quickly, spikes your blood sugar very fast and high, and leaves you hungry again soon after. And it's not just flour. Okay, corn can be broken down into high fructose corn syrup, corn solids, maltodextrin, glucose syrup, on and on it goes. Back to flour. So if it's not just enough to strip the nutrition off of the wheat, and you are left with the pure starch, they add insult to injury by taking that starch and running it through a process called bleaching. And you can look up what is the process, what is the industrial process of bleaching flour, and you'll see it's atrocious. It's just a very heavily chemicalized process that just renders this, it's not even food at this point. So that's adding insult to injury. And most what people consume is that garbage. Even if something says whole wheat, that's actually a mislabel, because if you look at how the bread is made, go to any grocery store, go to your bread aisle, look at what says whole wheat. Okay, buy that, and you'll see that majority of it is actually white wheat bleached flour. And they put a little bit of whole wheat or a little bit of bran back into it just to make the color and the appearance look like it's whole wheat. They can technically, by law, call it whole wheat, but it's nothing to do with whole wheat. Go make your own bread, you see a completely big difference. We have clients that they mill their own flour, they purchase their own grain from high quality, nutrient dense, organic sources. It's a completely different animal than the garbage that you buy from the store. So you really have to understand the gravity of the problem and what you actually consume. Including rice. Rice can be polished into white rice, losing its nutrients and fiber. Yeah, even oats and potatoes can be refined into flours and starches that behave like sugars in the body. These ingredients ultimately flood your bloodstream with glucose, forcing your pancreas to release insulin to bring the sugar back down. Over time, this leads to what we call insulin resistance, which is the root cause of prediabetes and diabetes, weight gain, and metabolic disease. And this is ultimately what happens. At this point, you have a type 2 diabetic. At this point, they can't produce insulin or enough of it. And because they keep eating that garbage, they have to keep consuming, synthetic insulin. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about, number 3. What happens in your body? Well, here's what happens when you eat a diet high in refined carbohydrates. You basically eat something like white bread, processed cereal, or a granola bar. Within minutes, your blood sugar spikes. Your body releases insulin to shuttle that sugar into your cells. Okay, but when you do that over and over, day after day, weeks and months in and out, your cells stop responding properly. So the same amount of insulin that your body produced no longer works. So now your body has to pump out more insulin. Now you've got chronically high insulin levels, high blood sugar, and inflammation, the perfect storm for fat storage, fatigue, and hormonal imbalance, which ultimately is metabolic disease. And over time, your body stores more and more fat around your belly. Your cravings intensify and your energy crashes. You might feel hungry an hour after eating, even though you just consumed hundreds, if not over 1,000 calories. Okay, this is because of that issue. That's why you will never feel hungry an hour after you eat if you consume a whole food, nutrient-dense, well-balanced, glycemically low load meal. It's not going to happen. But when people consume the garbage that they do, that's exactly what happens. And that's because these foods are designed to fill your stomach, not nourish your body. So you end up overfed, but literally undernourished. That's why I see, people that have literally morbid obesity. You'll see a perfect example of that. Insane amount of body fat, low muscle mass, and they're busted and disgusted. You've never seen a morbidly obese person vibrant and healthy with all their metabolic numbers perfect. Not gonna happen. Okay, so ultimately you end up overfed but undernourished. Taking in plenty of calories but missing the fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytonutrients that your body actually needs to function well, including quality proteins and healthy fats. By the way, you don't have to be obese. There are certain people that, based on their genetic metabolic makeup, the metabolism, and the way they're able to process calories and other factors that can get pretty complex, they might be skinny. They might not be overweight. They might not have even look chunky or plumpy. They actually might be skinny. They're not exempt from chronic disease. They absolutely still can have insulin resistance, prediabetes, diabetes, mitochondrial dysfunction, hormonal imbalances, and so forth. It is never going to happen. I don't care how genetically strong somebody is. They might have phenomenal genetics and they might get away with it for a long period of time. But ultimately, they will succumb to the same chronic disease that their overweight or obese counterparts do and have done probably earlier than they did. Okay. So just because you might be blessed with a favorable, metabolism and you can eat whatever you want, if you think you're healthy or delusional, okay, you will succumb to chronic disease. I can guarantee you that. I don't care who you are. So just keep that in mind. It's a big misnomer and a big misconception that people think, oh gosh, my weight is normal or healthy, or I'm even skinny, and I eat whatever I want, I'm fine. You'll get something eventually. That is a guaranteed. Okay, let's move on to number 4. So why the food industry uses those highly refined products? Well, if refined carbs are so harmful, okay, why are they everywhere? The answer comes down to money and convenience, as usually with most things, especially money. We all know that money rules the proverbial roost in the world. Okay. Follow the money trail, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's healthcare, it does not matter. Money is the number one driver. So processed carbs are, well, they're cheap to produce, especially with the government subsidies for corn and wheat that are in place and have been in place for a very long time now. I think over 4 decades that I know of, at least. They're shelf stable, meaning they can sit in the warehouses and then on the grocery stores for months, if not years on end. They're easy to manipulate. Manufacturers can make them soft, crunchy, chewy, sweet, depending on the formula. Whatever they want, it's like Lego pieces. And they keep consumers coming back for more. Okay, these what processed carbs do. And this is the answer why they keep using them. So keep in mind, this is not about nutrition, it's about profit. Okay? The proverbial money rules the roost. It always does. So these foods are engineered to look, smell, and taste good, really good, but they're hollow, they're empty. Okay, they hit your dopamine receptors without giving your body what it truly needs. And that's why you can eat a bag of chips or cookies and still feel hungry 20 minutes later. And that is because your body is searching for real nourishment that simply isn't there, or you never gave it back. So that's I think a lot of people know a lot of that, or most of that information at some point, but I don't think they're paying attention. Perhaps, I don't know, but it's there, it's been there. And this is why we have to get serious about these issues. Okay, so let's talk about part number 5, the deceptive marketing. Okay, the food industry is clever. They know people are getting smarter about health. So they use marketing buzzwords like whole grain, veggie, natural. But here's the reality. Most 100% whole grain breads, as I said before, have been ground to finely, well, they still raise blood sugar almost as fast as white bread. In addition, they actually do contain mostly white wheat bleached flour. Okay, and they just add some whole grain to it for appearance and for labeling law compliance. Okay, people put in veggie chips, for instance, are usually made from vegetable powders and starches, fried in industrial seed vegetable oils and salt. So people, I eat veggie chips, it's healthy. It's not. Okay, again, you're eating vegetable powders that are bound with different chemicals and actually starches, fried industrial seed oil. Nothing healthy about it. You might as well go enjoy a real potato chip. Okay. They also go for the low-fat snacks. Okay, they often replace fat with sugar or starch to make it taste good. Back in the 90s, the whole cholesterol-free, fat-free, low-fat craze came out, and because if you guys remember, saturated fat was blamed for everything, including heart disease, which was not the case. And what happened? Nothing happened. People kept getting fatter. Diabetes kept on increasing even more so, because now instead of at least some kind of lower glycemic meal that had fat in it, even though from not the best source, now everything got replaced with more sugar. Okay. So low fat was a big marketing scheme back in the 90s, early 2000s. Now you still see it here and there, but ultimately you're ingesting even more refined, ultra refined processed carbohydrates. So don't just read the front of the package, turn it over and read the ingredient list. Okay, if it contains things like maltodextrin, corn syrup, corn solids, high fructose corn syrup, sugar of any kind, or any enriched flour, it is still a highly refined carb product. Okay, and you should not consume it. Right. Let's talk about the other part, and this is the biological fallout from those things. Okay, let's discuss what refined carbs do over the long term in the physiology of a human being. Okay, which, by the way, this one's just a human being anymore. Now, if you look at pets like cats and dogs, now you have an obesity epidemic in those things. And people think it's cute. It's not cute at all. You're causing the animal to suffer. And it's ultimately ridden in chronic disease and obesity. Okay. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people that their dogs look like barrels. Okay. Like an Oompa Loompa walking around. The poor animal can barely walk. Again, what do they feed it? Garbage. I promise you they're not feeding it high quality, meat and, organs or some kind of carnivorous based diet that the animal should eat. No, they're eating processed carbohydrates and foods, just like the owners do. Okay. But let's talk about the refined carbohydrates and how they affect the physiology over the long term. So every time your blood sugar spikes, your body experiences a wave of inflammation. That's what happens. Every crash that follows triggers cravings and mood swings. And over time, this constant stress in your system leads to the following: fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver, hormone imbalances, elevated triglycerides, high blood pressure, and chronic inflammation throughout the body. These are the same underlying mechanisms behind diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and cancers. So when we talk about cutting back on sugar, we're really talking about healing the entire metabolic system, calming insulin, increasing insulin sensitivity while reducing insulin resistance, reducing inflammation, and giving your body a chance to reset and heal. Okay. This is just the reality of it, fortunately. Okay. Now, let's talk about the other part here. Number 7, not all processing is bad. So processing, the name of processing has been kind of attacked because what is the actual definition? And people get stupid about it. And unless you have a proper frame of reference, you can get lost. But it is important to understand that not all processing is harmful. Okay, there are forms of minimal processing that make food safer or more accessible. For example, you get organic canned beans in a BPA-free can. It's a great source of fiber, and plant-based, protein and general nutrition, vitamins, minerals. Okay, all you got to do is just rinse them to remove the excess, salt, especially the sea salt, and you're fine. Freshly frozen fruits and vegetables are just as nutritious and fresh, oftentimes even more so, because when they're picked, they're frozen within an hour or so, and that actually preserves the nutritional value. In addition, when frozen fruits and vegetables are picked, they're picked at the perfect right timing and frozen immediately. Therefore, the nutritional content is close to optimal as it can be, as opposed to the regular fresh vegetables that come from other states and other countries. They're prematurely picked, they have not ripened, and their nutritional content is oftentimes not as optimal as the fresh. So frozen fruits and vegetables, which we use all the time, one, they're cheaper. Two, they keep very well in the freezer for a long time, and they have more nutrition. Okay, let's give another example. Nut butters, especially that are unsweetened. Okay, these are just simply ground nuts. Now, use organic as possible. And as long as there's no added sugar or hydrogenated oils, they're perfectly fine. Hummus, it's guacamole, for example. These are blends of whole foods that keep their nutrition intact, but there's some processing involved. All right, so don't get stupid about, well, this is processed and that's technically processed. No, get the big picture of what there's the processed, ultra processed, ultra refined foods and carbohydrates we're talking about. Okay, so the problem starts again when the food is stripped down, refined, and rebuilt into something that your body no longer recognizes as food. Right? For instance, if you see people, women especially, with the cellulitis looking like thick fat that looks like cottage cheese on the back of their legs and the skin in general, depending how fat they are. This is a perfect example of how the body does not know how to properly store the highly refined processed fats that are from industrial seed vegetable oils that are foreign to the molecular structure of actual not normal fat, whether unsaturated or saturated, that comes from either animal or plant-based. And because it doesn't, it creates this awkward storage formation, not to mention because the inflammation and other factors, now you have collagen breakdown as well. So you take it, that's why you have this cottage cheese looking fat aggregation that looks horrible, obviously. But this is an example of how this is, the body does not recognize that as food, because it really isn't the food that you used. So just keep that in mind. Use the proper frame of reference and understand what processing is and what it isn't, and the difference between the two. Okay, so let's talk about what to do instead. Well, the good news, you can absolutely reverse this trend and rebuild your health with simple, consistent daily changes. So here are some practical ways to start today. All right. One, choose whole food that is intact, whole nutrient, preferably organic, whole foods. But if you don't have access to organic, not a problem. As long as the whole food, you're fine. Okay, go for things like yams, sweet potatoes, quinoa, beans, lentils, fruits, vegetables. Okay, oatmeal, buckwheat, organic grits, especially yellow or purple or mixed, which has a lot of good nutrition. Okay, go those instead of flours, syrups, and powders. Okay, I'm not talking about if you have organic sprouted oatmeal flour, for example, or rye flour, or whatever other whole grain organic true whole grain-based flours are. We're talking about refined flours. Okay, if you want to see what refined flour looks like exactly, go to your grocery store, go to the flour baking aisle, and look where the white bleached flours are, and you're going to see exactly what those are. Also, right around that, they usually have the industrial seed oils, such as like corn, canola, sunflower, peanut oil, soybean. They also have the refined sugars. They also have the fructose syrups, such as especially high fructose corn syrups, and all that other ultra refined garbage that is there. These are the worst of the worst. This is what pretty much every ultra processed food that is driving the chronic disease epidemic in our country is made out of. Okay, so again, choose whole foods. Number 2, eat carbohydrates the way nature designed them. Okay, so when fiber, nutrients, and natural structures are intact, your body digests them slowly, efficiently, and is utilizing everything the way it's supposed to build and maintain its health. All right. Number 3, balance your plate. Combine healthy carbohydrates with good quality protein and wholesome, good, healthy fats and fiber at each meal. That causes slow digestion, steady, keeps the blood sugars lower and stable, and helps you feel fuller much longer in a healthy, good way. Okay, number 4, limit greatly liquid sugars. Best eliminate them, period. I know a lot of people have a hard time with that. The justification is, well, I used to drink 6 Cokes a day. Now I'm down to like 1 or 2. Even people will go to those little miniature half cans. And that alone for most people is enough not to be able to reverse their chronic disease, especially things like diabetes or lose weight. I don't care if it's a quarter of a can a day. It has got to go if you're trying to reverse chronic disease and if you're trying to lose body fat, because that still will not let you do that. And the reason why it can go from 6 down to 1 and they cannot go from 1 to 0 is because the severe addiction is that simple. Okay, I can't tell you how many people justify this stupidity over and over. Okay, and they don't get it. So sodas, energy drinks, and even fruit juices can hit your bloodstream faster than candy. Stick to water, herbal, organic tea, non-herbal, caffeinated organic tea, or even sparkling water with lemon. And now they have many options of truly naturally flavored sparkling waters, non-sparkling waters. They have, Zevia. It's a good company that's got a lot of good alternatives. People that are severely addicted to pop and to sodas. But ultimately, water with lemon is going to be your best choice. Okay. Number 5, read labels. Look at the back of the ingredient list. Don't look at the front label, what is your advertising. Watch for hidden sugars like dextrose, maltose, maltodextrin, corn syrups, corn solids, high fructose corn syrup. They all act the same way in your body, okay? And cook at home, cook more often. Preparing your own meals reconnects you with real food, believe it or not. It's one of the most powerful ways to regain control of your health. A lot of people say, well, I don't have time. Find time. Well, there's the will, there's the way. We live in the United States of America, and I'll be very honest with you, I'm really, really tired of people making BS excuses. Okay, there is always excuse. They have all the time, at least in that 2-3 hours collectively, to scroll to stupid worthless social media or to watch a stupid show, okay, for 45 minutes or 1 hour, whatever it might be. But they have the audacity to tell me, well, they can't cook or they can't make an own meal. I have a very hard time with that. Yes, are they severe exceptions due to work schedules or certain things? Sure. But then again, after that, you have a lot of high quality meal preparation companies that will ship your home frozen high quality meals. Some we even deliver fresh depending on the location. So there's there's no excuse. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, we all know the saying, where there is a will, there is a way. And the fact that we live in the United States of America with the most abundance in this world, I really don't want to hear excuses. I'm very honest with you. I've tried to be compassionate and sympathize with people, but the more I've practiced, going on 28 years now, the more I see the same pattern. People that want to do it, and people that don't always come up with excuses. Okay, and again, this is just a general, statement. I know there are severe exceptions, as I said, but these are bad, severe exceptions, like 0.01% of the time. So anyway, I digress here a little bit, but I just want to be honest with you and give you my observation and experience that I've seen. Number 9, bottom line. Okay, so processed and refined, ultra refined carbohydrates aren't just empty calories. They're engineered ingredients that disrupt blood sugar, hormones, and hunger signals, creating a biological setup for cravings, inflammation, and ultimately chronic disease. But here's the encouraging truth. Your body's incredibly resilient. When you start feeding it real food again, whole, fiber-rich, natural carbohydrates, it begins to heal. Your energy stabilizes, your brain fog lifts, your craving fade, and your body starts working with you again instead of against you. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aware and intentional. Every small change adds up. And I always tell, it's not about perfection. It's always about moving forward continuously in the right direction. Remember that. Every time you choose a real whole food, nutrient-dense food over something processed, you're voting for your own health. Okay. That is just the reality of it. Okay. Now, if this message hits home for you guys, take it as your reminder that you have control and you vote with your dollar. You can choose nourishment over convenience. You can choose energy, clarity, and longevity over short-term pleasure and disease, ultimately. And when you do, your body will thank you, I promise you. Not in a week or two, but every single day with steadier energy, better mood, and long-term health. Okay. Food is the most powerful medicine that we have when it comes to chronic disease. Okay. That's I hope you really understand that, because yes, there are high quality supplements, there are protocols, there are other modalities that can help in certain situations, different things, but ultimately the nutrition lifestyle is the most powerful entity that you have against chronic disease. And metabolic diseases, things like heart disease, high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, insulin resistance, whatever stage you might be in, it is the fastest and easiest reversible aspect of that. That is hands down. somebody who has high triglycerides, high blood pressure, obesity, or overweight, they're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, these are the easiest and the absolute fastest chronic disease states that you can reverse, like within months, literally, and completely change your life. So that's the truth about processed and refined carbohydrates. They don't just change your metabolism, they change your life. But the good news is that you can change it right back. Okay. Now, in closing, I want to urge you guys to take action. Okay. So, the ultimate solution to our problem is going to be, aside from people taking matters into their own hands with their nutritional choices and voting with your fork, okay, with your dollar that you buy every single time, is going to be to change the politics. Because unless those foods, I hate calling them foods, unless they're outlawed or severely restricted for production and consumption in the general population, is going to be an uphill battle for most people, very much so. And if you don't believe me, look at where we're at now. The information I shared is nothing new. Okay, there have been people speaking against that, believe it or not, since the 1930s. That's correct. Yeah, I said 1930s, almost close to a century ago. Okay, and the people have gone to jail over this, have been shut down, HBT platform. Okay, it's not nothing new. Okay, and now, even though we can speak freely against those, processed foods and the companies that produce them, we have all the gyms available to us. We have all the organic grocery stores. Everybody has, at least most people have a high access to online shopping, like Amazon, especially. There is delivery companies with meals. Nothing really has changed much at all. If anything, the chronic disease epidemic is exponentially increasing every decade. So one of the fastest ways is going to be to take action from the top down. So the FDA has opened a public comment period for a physician. His name is Dr. Kessler. Okay. And that means that anyone can share their perspective, and those comments become part of the official record that regulators review. So here's how you can make your comment count. Share a personal story about how processed carbohydrates and food have affected your health, your family, your friend, or your community. Explain how cutting back on and eliminating those processed carbs has made a positive difference in you or somebody you know. Okay. But ultimately, just say something. Keep it simple and honest. It doesn't need to be long or technical. Even if a sentence is valuable. But you can comment on the petition, and I'll post the link there. But that is the regulations.gov/comment on /FDA. -2025-P-3071-0001. Okay, that is on the regulations.gov. But take action, because this is, in our history here, in our generation, one of the first abilities and petitions to be able to start regulating those foods very heavily. And hopefully the more the better. So it's called Citizen Petition from David A. Kessler. Okay. And they just became open in August of this year. So go in there, comment. We'll post the link on this podcast. Guys can go spread the word, because I'm telling you right now, if we do not start to regulate the manufacturers and the growers of those processed foods, is going to be a very big uphill battle for most people. So I encourage you and I urge you to go and vote, spread the word on social media, have people post their comments and make it known. These foods, or lack of a better word, I don't even foods, they have got to go. Okay, if we want to heal our nation, these foods have to go. Anyway, today's podcast was a little bit more intense. Like I said, it was very near and dear to me because I've been seeing these patterns for the last 28 years with folks, and how processed foods have actually literally devastated their lifestyles, their health, their family's health, loved ones, communities, and so forth. So we just have to understand what the problem is, put things in the proper perspective and a frame of reference, and start acting upon it. Okay, you'll never be sorry for doing this. Okay, so until next time, you guys have a great day.
Thank you for your valuable time and for listening to the Your Health Reclaimed podcast with Dr. PND. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and share this episode with a person you know it can help. If we can help you in any way, or you would like to connect with Dr. PND, please visit drpnd.com. That's drpnd.com.